Okay. My name is Jim Fergal. I'm the facilitator of the WorkNet 2-Page Job Club, as well as the manager of Job Seeker Services and Veteran Services. You have my email, will be coming at the end of this. Our website is worknet2page.org. Today's presentation will be Survival, a guide for job search wilderness. The staff today that will be helping me, maybe answering questions on the Q&A. Of course, myself, Amy Ulo is our manager of marketing and communication.
Hello all.
Javon Morris is a workshop facilitator.
Good morning.
And Jennifer Wiggeman is also a workshop facilitator.
Good morning.
So Amy handles all of our marketing and communications. Javon, Jennifer, and myself, we do job search workshops as well as put on the job club. Hopefully someday we'll see you all in person. So I do have some poll questions I'd like to, look at here. And the first one is, have you submitted an application to WorkNet 2-Page? And are you working with a counselor for training, job search, or both? And have you attended or viewed online the WorkNet 2-Page job search bootcamp workshops or virtual job clubs? And it's multiple choice. I like to. Okay. So 82% of you have submitted an application. Those of you who haven't, if you are in the Lombard, Illinois area, please go online. I'll show you where to do that to fill out an application. Once the application, because we are grant funded, and I'll talk about that, you will be working with a counselor either for certification training or job search. And then since we've gone to Zoom, we have put a lot of videos on our website. We've recorded all the job clubs since, I guess, April. And Jennifer and I have also recorded some job clubs, well, actually some presentations about virtual interviewing and networking and things like that. Okay. So just so you see who's your compatriots are here. Okay, a lot of you are attending the job club too. Good, good. Okay. So let me get rid of that. And so WorkNet 2-Page is funded by Congress through the Workforce Innovation and Opportunity Act, or called WIOA. Every Friday at 9 a.m. right now, while we're virtual, we do a virtual job club. I will list all the presenters coming up. Next week, we actually have a presentation on how to effectively network during the time of COVID-19. But you got to keep your 6 feet distance. We also have job search workshops. This is where you do need to fill out an application online. I'll show you where to do that in a moment. We do have training grants up to $10,000 for people who qualify. That would be anything from CDL training to healthcare training to the latest and greatest in Microsoft, Cisco, Agile Scrum, PMP, things like that. We do have a layoff to launch workshop every Tuesday. I believe it's very important for you to come to our events. Just go to worknetdupage.org to sign up for these events. If you are new to WorkNet DuPage, we do have this layoff, from layoff to launch workshop every Tuesday at 9:30. You can see here down at the bottom, worknetdupage.org launch, and you can sign up there. They'll talk about how you may be able to qualify for the grants to upgrade your skills, mainly certification training, and still continue to receive your unemployment benefits. And you don't need to pay back the training funds. The only thing we ask is that you let us know when you get a job, and I'll talk about that at the end, because I find it's very important to stay motivated during this time, which is the whole reason for this workshop today. So I created this workshop, a survival guide for the job search workshop. Its earliest forms took place actually during Y2K, when everyone thought the world was going to end because all the computers were going to blow up because we didn't know how to get into the year 2000. So I was in a bookstore, remember those? I think it was the Barnes and Nobles or Borders. And one of the highlighted books as you walk in the door was an old military guide, Survival, Escape, and Evasion. I said, hey, I got that at home. So I looked in it and I started looking at, wow, we can take survival, break it down, and we can apply it to the job search. And I went through this, just so you know. The Army was downsizing. I left Germany when the wall came down. Went through probably 5 to 7 years of nomad, where I kind of bounced around from jobs, selling insurance. I got hired by the unemployment office. They laid me off 4 or 5 times during a recession. And then I also did some recruiting that time. And then eventually I got hired here at WorkNet DuPage as a veterans counselor. We also I've survived several reorgs over the years and got promoted multiple times. So I looked at my own trials and tribulations while wandering the wilderness, and looked at, and after talking with a lot of people who've gone through layoffs, I decided this is an appropriate topic for all of us. Okay. So the interesting thing that I see is that we have very turbulent times in economy. Like, really? like you need to be told that, right? Wow, this year has been crazy, literally, from COVID to the protests to the riots. And because of COVID, I mean, you look at the economy was really strong, and then all of a sudden we shut down, and then we have people furloughed. Ironically, both of my sons, one got hired right as the lockdowns were happening, actually in sales. He was supposed to fly out to San Diego, and that stopped, and his whole hiring process was virtual. His onboarding was virtual. And then he had to start working from home virtually. My other son, who ironically my younger son got into his old company, is furloughed right now, supposedly going back at the end of June. So you see this dynamic, and we have people getting hired, we have a lot getting laid off, and the economy is really turbulent. Ironically, Cranes today was just talking about how the unemployment rate dropped from 14.7 to something like 13.3%. And it shocked economists. They were expecting it to jump. And unemployment claims actually were down. So what does that say? I don't know what it says. I always look at the news and numbers, with a judicious, skeptical eye. But I notice from our viewpoint, we are getting people who are getting interviews and getting jobs. We just need to find out. And this is why I say again, if you get a job, let us know so we can let other people know. So anyway, if we look at this turbulent time and economy, well, you're shipwrecked. And I'm using Robinson Crusoe as a theme throughout this whole job search survival. I thought it's excellent. He's stranded on an island, and everything he has to do to try to survive reminds me of my own job search. And I see it with you. So the first thing that happens is your ship is sunk, you're laid off, the job isn't there, and you're trying to figure out, gosh, what's happening to me? Well, transitions, you have, William Bridges talks about all new beginnings start with endings, okay? So you're on the path to a new beginning. I don't know what it is, but your time in the wilderness, he calls it the neutral zone, I call it job search wilderness or unemployment land, varies for each individual. Depends on the industry, depends upon what you do. So all new beginnings start with endings. There are different phases of change. One of the first things that happens is you look at yourself and go, wow, what's up? What's happening? The second thing is you move into survival mode. Then you start becoming really effective at your job search. And then you start orienting and becoming more focused, and you become mission oriented. What's my goal? And you become like laser focused on the type of positions you're looking for. Ironically, you go through the stages of grief. And I have found that not only does this apply to divorces and death, but also to layoffs. And you go through the whole cycle from shock and just anger, bargaining. Gosh, I hope my company is going to call me back. I mean, people on furlough, that's what they're hoping right now. You're in the bargaining mode. And then you also hit the depths of depression. But then eventually you hit this acceptance of, okay, I've been laid off. I don't know if my company is going to call me back, but I should start taking preparations to start possibly looking elsewhere. And then I'm going to show you the cycle of unemployment. I call it the quicksand of unemployment long term. So let's talk about you're stranded on the beach. What's happened? Well, for one thing, you've lost the familiar. When you were going to work, you had your routine. You got up at a certain time, you got ready for work, you had breakfast, your commute, your time at work, your commute home. And when I've asked job search workshops, how much time did that all take? People said anywhere from 10, 14, 16 hours per day. Project managers were up to 90 hours or more per week. But now, and this is where the divorce comes in, you've been kicked out of the family. Okay, and you're in unknown turf right now. If you've never been laid off, and I've had people come through who were at Nokia, Alcatel-Lucent / Nokia for 30 years. I had someone else who was at a company for 40 years, survived 200 layoffs. And it's not like getting a job was in the 60s or 70s, or even 10 years ago. It's all changed. And what's happened is, and those of you who got kids, everything is torn apart. You're trying to work from home. You may have a spouse or significant other who's now trying to work from home. So you're trying to be in different rooms. And then you have the kids who some of you have to educate as well. And you have all this going on. I guess I should put in here stress in capital letters. Your identity has been taken away. When you go to job clubs, when you meet someone, they say, eventually it comes down to, what do you do? Well, I'm a truck driver, I'm a job search trainer, I'm a software engineer. In America, we identify strongly with who we are, with what we do. And now we don't have our jobs and we're struggling with, oh my gosh, who am I? What do I do? And your self-esteem takes a hit. There's times during my layoffs that I felt lower than those microbes in the bottom of the Marianas Trench in the Pacific Ocean, deepest part of the ocean. And I'm like, that's how low I felt some days. The other thing is disillusionment. You know, you've been told, I've even talked sometimes with my staff about, you know, I was told, you work hard, you keep your nose to the grindstone, you'll be recognized, you'll get promotions and things like that. And you'll have a job for life, right? I'm going to tell you, I thought I was guaranteed jobs. When I went into the Army as an Army officer at the end of Vietnam, they said, oh, you're guaranteed 20. Your promotion board to captain is going to be, you're going to have 2 in that year group. Next thing I know, my 2 promotion boards to major, actually is what it was, were actually layoff boards. They were laying us off. And then during my transition back to the States, when I interviewed at the unemployment office, the name of the unemployment officially is the Illinois Department of Employment Security. I had to fight the crowds going in, and I said, wow, people are always going to be laid off. I got a guaranteed job. And this is where I learned to listen. Whenever I hear the terms, we've never had a layoff staff in the previous years or something, a layoff is coming. Because I was laid off from them 4 or 5 times during a recession. So my disillusionment was unbelievable. Distortion of time. When you first get laid off, you think, oh wow, I got 6 months of unemployment. I'll find a job by then. But I've noticed that it seems really slow because the days take so long. What am I going to do? I'm on the computer, you know, I'm trying to apply online. And now you can't even go out half the time to talk to people. And it just drags. But then I also noticed 6 months will go by before you know it. I mean, I had knee surgery. I came back to work in March for 1 week. Next thing I know, they're telling us, okay, we're going to go into lockdown. And I've had to learn to record all these videos, get onto Zoom, work from home. I think I've been in the office physically less than 20 days this whole year. And when I look back, and I was talking with Amy before we started, I'm looking at, I didn't even know Zoom 2.5 months ago, almost 3 months. And now here we are, we're becoming very comfortable with it. And those 2 to 3 months have just flown by. If you haven't been laid off, you're in a totally unknown land. Usually people say, hey, let's go to the unemployment office. Well, the unemployment offices are closed, most of them. A few you could go into physically, but now everything's online. This is all unknown. People, you know, do resumes the old way. They don't know about applicant tracking systems, LinkedIn, all this. So this is all totally unknown that you have to learn. So, excuse me. My cousin worked for Motorola for 25 years, and his wife, every day, you know, from the time he was laid off, would come in at the end of the day and say, have you found a job yet? Have you found a job yet? He says, oh my gosh, I'm trying to figure out unemployment. I'm trying to figure out our financial situation. Where can we get money from? I've I've heard that there's places I have to get my resume together. Now I'm attending job clubs. I'm hearing I have to have a LinkedIn profile. It's just all the stuff he didn't know about, and yet he was getting pressure from her. Have you found a job? And yet he's trying to figure out his way through the unknown land, which is why I go into job search survival. And the other thing that comes up is career questions. You know, it's just like, well, what do I want to do now? And we'll talk about this as we go through. If you have any questions throughout this, go ahead and type them in the question and answer. So these are all the topics I'm going to cover. This is how survival is. We're going to size up the situation. We're going to talk about being unfocused and unorganized. Review and refocus, vanquish fear and desperation. Improvise and illustrate. Value networking. A for always be ready. And L for lifelong learning. So I've kind of adapted this to the job search mode here. So let's talk about sizing up the situation. You get stranded, you're on this island. And the first thing you got to do is take inventory. Look at yourself, look at your career path, look at your work history, look at your financial, your salary, the benefits that you need. Your skill sets, the experiences you've had, the education, and what's happening in the economy. And this is where we get into the SWOT. A lot of you probably have heard this through work or whatever, but it's identifying your strengths and weaknesses, as well as your opportunities and threats that are out there. So all you have to do is you can draw a cross on the page. You know, you just flip over, have a blank piece of paper, draw a huge cross down the middle and across the middle. And you start in the upper left-hand corner and you put SWOT, S, then you have weakness across from that. Down below, you have opportunities and threats, or however you want to do it. Strengths. Identify the positive areas that are under your control that you can take advantage of. Your career, your training, your experiences, all of this, your education, everything that you have going for you. Then you have weaknesses, those areas that are under your control, but you need to improve. Maybe you don't have certification. Maybe all the jobs you're seeing require PMP. Maybe you want to be a truck driver, but you want to get a CDL-A license, okay? What do you have to do to get that? External, things that are outside your control, are what's happening with opportunities in your field and the marketplace. So the opportunities, external conditions you don't have control of but can plan to take advantage. Okay, what are the opportunities out there? And when I did recruiting during one of my layoffs from unemployment during the recession, the guy training me to be a recruiter said that companies are hiring all the time. And being a doubtful Thomas, I said, really? From unemployment? We had lines out the door. And he said, the problem with you is you come from unemployment office, you're looking to who's laying off. You need to change your perspective and look for who's hiring. Where are the opportunities? Because when one area of the economy is screwed up, there's going to be another area of the economy trying to fix it. And he told me, and I have stuck to this for over 25 years. Get out of the want ads, read the business section of the newspapers, the Business Insider, Cranes, anything, Wall Street Journal. He says, because that's where the opportunities are. And I've noticed when I do read Cranes or something, they talk about companies moving in. I read commercial real estate. It tells what companies are moving in somewhere, how they're expanding square footage, which means they're hiring. You know, it's all this stuff. You got to look deep and not sit on the internet all day just looking for job leads. Go find them before anyone else finds them. And the threats, I mean, you can't control the COVID lockdown. Certainly, we're seeing the protests and the riots. You have no control over that. And these all affect the condition. All the stores that have been looted and stuff that were supposed to open this week now are going to be on extended close down. However, my guess is the construction and the trades are going to be having some hiring going on. Do you see? It's a bizarre way to look at it, but that's what I want you to think about. My two sons are in freight forwarding, sales and movement. When I go over the railroad tracks, my son says, how many containers are over the railroad tracks, Mannheim going up to O'Hare? That helps me gauge how much freight is moving. Also, how many trucks are on the road. So the more trucks on the road, although it's irritating in rush hour, tells me that things are moving from port, or raw product is moving to factories, or finished product is moving from factories to stores. This is how I think now. When it comes time to develop character, it is done in the wilderness. And there are days, and I remember this distinctly. It was probably my fourth layoff from the unemployment office. It was a dreary January morning, sleeting gray. I'm drinking my coffee. I wanted to drink more, but it was 9 a.m. and my wife's a drug and alcohol nurse. And I was doing the, oh, woe is me. Here I am laid off again. I don't know how to find, there's no jobs and stuff like that. And she tells me to stop it. She says, quit playing the victim. I said, victim? Who gets laid off from unemployment? Not once, not twice, but 4 times during a recession. She says, I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about, they're going to call you back, and they're going to lay you off again. So you need to be prepared for that next layoff. And I was like, wow. She says, because then you are in control of your fate rather than letting others be in control of your fate. So what I did was, the next time they called me back, and since I was the one who put job orders into the computer, any job that looked interesting to me, I was on it in a heartbeat. I'd be applying for it. So while you're in the wilderness, here's what's going on. You're being tested right now. And some of you are probably seeing things about you that come to the surface that you never thought you did. I remember hearing a speaker at the job club says, when you leave the job club today, go home and apologize to your spouse, kids, and the dog. Just because the pressure that's inside of you. Purification. I cast metal soldiers, and when I melt the metal, when it gets real hot, it turns to liquid form. But on the top is a scum called slag, and the impurities are being scraped out is what I have to do. Well, it's the same thing for you. Your old way of thinking has to change. The job search has to change. You can combine some of the old ways with the new, but you also have to be open to the change. So get rid of some of the old way of thinking with the job search. And it's also a time of preparation. I never knew. I was kind of like with a compass on top of metal, just spinning around. I was just bouncing from job to job, industry to industry without a plan. But when I look back at it, everything that I've done in my life and career has prepared me to be talking to you today. I've learned that all jobs are temporary and all jobs are training grounds for the future. So change occurs in the wilderness. If you want to change, they say, oh, okay, take it, and when there's no pressure on us, we don't really change. And when you're in this ending and beginning, this in-between land, you're holding on to the old, but you want to and it's tough to let go of your old ways to reach for something in the future. It's hard to do that. I will never deny that. That's why there's so many self-help books out there on it. So we have our perceptions of how we were, who we were in the past. But one of the things, and this is why I like the Odyssey, is with Ulysses, is that one of the things was he had to go through all these trial and tribulations to get home. And when he was shipwrecked, he lost everything. His whole transition from with the Cyclops, when he said his name was no one, which meant he got rid of his identity, to eventually landing on some island totally naked, which means he stripped himself of all external things that had meaning, and he had to be reborn. So the journey through the wilderness takes a lot of letting go and dying that used to give us comfort and security, and we have to take some risk here. But we do adapt. We have adapted, and we will continue to adapt. One thing about humans is we do adapt. I used to remember there was a French Foreign Legion saying, "Marcher ou crever," which means march or die. In the economic world, in the job search world, change or die, or adapt or die, and that's what we have to do. So I was at a career conference, and I saw this, and I was like, oh my gosh, this makes so much sense. This is what was going on in my head. The first thing, when the military laid me off, was I was in denial. I went on a vacation. I had some friends come over, visit me in Germany. We went to Oktoberfest. I kept calling about an application for my old job that turned to civilian. Then you hit some anger and frustration. You do your traditional job search, which means looking online. We'll talk about that. You start getting a lot of no's. You hit depression. Depression leads to reduced self-esteem, feelings of victimization. You know, I told you about mine. Then you start feeling hopeless. Then you start avoiding challenges. You start applying for lesser level jobs, and then you start getting overqualified. Then you start getting into longer employment. Then you take a vacation again. You see how this cycle is? And it starts sucking you down. It's just like, stop. Okay. Once this was identified, I said, wow, that's what was going on in my head every day. And once I was able to put it on paper to see it, I said, wow. And it takes a lot of self-control or something to say, stop it. Stop it as best as you can. So I actually, when I created this workshop, I made a little job search manual that I would pass out, looking exactly like a military manual. But if I had to, if I'm stranded on a desert island, this is what I would want with me. Ask the Headhunter by Nick Crocodilis. You can go to his website, asktheheadhunter.com. It's fantastic. It's for free. Every Tuesday you get a newsletter from him where he answers job search questions, interview questions. He's not a fan of human resources and applicant tracking systems, that's for sure. The magic books, as a matter of fact, I have them here at my desk at home. You know, these are the books I brought with me. I have Job Search Magic, Resume Magic, Interview Magic. They're fantastic. Each chapter at the end has 10 learning points that were covered in the chapter. What Color's Your Parachute? You got the time now. You can probably go online maybe and find it at jobhuntersbible.com. But Work the Flower exercise, it really helps you get direction, to identify your top skills, and to provide you with some direction. The 3 Boxes of Life is about school, work, and retirement. And by the time you figure out, get really proficient in one arena, then you're thrown into a new one. You got to start the whole process again. This is where he talks about what's happening, survival, becoming efficient, and finding meaning. Working Identity by Herminia Ibarra I found to be it's a little deep, but it's talking about midlife career change. And man, I've read a couple times, I've given it to friends. And she talks, and I'm going to summarize some of her stuff in a little bit, but it's mainly don't get hung up totally on self-assessments. Talk to people and experiment. The 2-hour job search, this is referred to me by one of our speakers at Job Club, Sandy Marcus, who was in the Career Center at IIT downtown. The Steve Dalton, ironically, grew up in Lyle, but he's been working on college campuses. And the 2-hour job search is not only for students, it is readily adaptable to you as the job seeker. Just follow things rather than looking for alumni, from college, which you can. Use alumni from your former coworkers. And Failing Forward by John Maxwell. A friend turned me onto this book. We all look at failures and rejections as horrible. Not really, which is why I'm doing this Ronin thing, is because you fall down towards the problem, towards the enemy. So now let's go into the U, unfocused and unorganized. I see this a lot. Man, I've said this. I just need a job, any job. I will do anything, anywhere, at any time. And I'm like a pinball machine. I was pinging off walls. This was inside my head. I always felt I had to be doing something. I took the job search workshops before I ever got hired here. I was on the phone. I would do job search by driving around just to kill time and look for help wanted signs or some company that interested me. I had no plan. It was just all unfocused and unorganized. I didn't even know how to get organized. I tried to do per charts of things, but it was just, it's just the head, inside your head. I had no daily plan. Back in those days, you could send out, you went to a printer for 500 copies of the exact same resume, you sent them everywhere. You don't do that now. I would apply to any and all positions. I said, yeah, I could do that. But I never highlighted anything that related to that position. And this is crucial. You only look online. As I mentioned earlier, there are jobs online, but as we'll talk about towards the end here, it's going to be people that you need to get in contact with to get those jobs. We want a map, we're trying to figure out this unfamiliar land, and we're trying to negotiate the wilderness. Okay, it's just like, wow, what's going on around here? So you need structure. Get a planner, or you can, there's an app, Trello, Trello, and there's other, if you go to some of my other workshops, I have them listed. There's online stuff. Really, you're in project management right now. Your product right now is you getting your next position. I didn't say job, next position. Schedule your day, your week, your month, so you have something to do. They make, you can schedule today, but what about an interview coming up next Wednesday? What do you have to do? You better hit the cleaners, right? Get your clothes into the cleaners. Maybe well, of course you can't go to hairdressers yet or barbers. I mean, these are just some things to consider. Identify contacts. We'll talk about that. People. Schedule time on the internet. Man, when I'm trying to prepare one of these presentations, I'm like glued to my chair down here. And it's the worst thing for my butt. It's the worst thing for my knee. But I get in this mindset, this flow moment. And then, I just like, whoa. Because I start divvying off, trying to find pictures, trying to find articles. Yesterday, not only was I trying to do this presentation, I had someone's bizarre resume in front of me. I was trying to do a schedule for my front desk staff, all this stuff. And so I had to really focus. I'm going to spend so much time doing this, so much time on the internet. And for you in the job search mode, it's so easy to get distracted by the news, by your phone, with alerting you that something's going up, an email. So schedule your time so you can stay focused. Networking, talking points, anytime, anywhere, to anyone. I would say between the ages of 8 and 90, maybe even younger, because even kids know people, call their parents or their friends' parents. Social media, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, be active on there. You can use Facebook to let your friends know that you're looking for an opportunity. I've had 2 people, because they got on there and let their family and friends know that they were looking for jobs, that got jobs because of it. Twitter, all you have to do is follow companies. There's different types of interviews. You have your informational, first, second, third. Track those. Where are you at with the different companies? Look at your negotiation. What are your needs, your wants, intangibles versus tangibles? Do you need the company car, or would you prefer more salary? It's all the stuff, or benefits. And follow up after interviews. And people that network with you, let them know. Let us know. Let people know. Follow up. I had one woman who was hired in, I think, Carol Stream. She had to follow up 2 or 3 times after her interview, and because of her follow up, they got she got hired. It doesn't hurt to follow up. One guy, he had a great interview, and they said, well, we're going to check your references, send them. And you know what? He hadn't heard anything. He called HR. They said, we haven't got your references yet. He said, oh my gosh. And so he sent them again, and then he was hired. But had he not followed up, he would have lost that job. Yes, a question came in. Will these slides, will you get a copy of them? Yes. You will get a copy of all these slides by email, as well as we're recording this presentation. You'll get a copy of the recording. And we were also going to post this on our website as well. So where are you going? Tracking your progress. So these are some basic map reading here. A compass gives you career direction. Shooting an azimuth gives you focus. The weather are market conditions. The terrain are the companies that are out there. Distances are your commutes, are your relocations. Schedules, okay, how much time does it take you to get from one place to another? Or your workshops, your interviews. Exploring can be networking or fact-finding. And then tracking your progress, or your interviews and your networking meetings. Let's go to R. Review and refocus. You got the time now. And have you ever noticed that be careful what you wish for? I remember, gosh, sometimes I wish I could work from home. The perfect thing would I could be work from home and do some stuff at home and then work at the office. Now I'm working from home. And it's like, right, I miss the office. Or maybe I hate my job so much, I wish I could do something different. Next thing you know, you're laid off. So let's take time, reassess where you're at. Maybe you need retraining. Maybe you've had an injury. Maybe your industry is dead and you need to retrain for a new one. This is where we come in. Maybe you want to reaffirm. Maybe you say, hey, my industry is growing. I want to stay in my industry. I enjoy what I do. And then maybe there's recareering as well. Maybe you have to do something totally different. Maybe your interests have changed. Maybe you say, I want to try this. So some questions to ask yourself. What's your vision? Write these out. What do you want? What do you want in a position, a company, job? What skills and experiences support this? Okay, you see, because when you're in the interview, you have to tell stories and you have to connect your background, your skill set, your experiences to the job. You just can't go in and say, hey, I want a job. Usually they want to know, why do you want a job? Okay, and why do you want to, here's the question from the employer's viewpoint. Why are you sitting in front of me right now and nowhere else? Why do you want to work here, and how can you help me? What actions do you need to take to get to this point, whatever you want, the company that you want to get into or the position? How will you know when you get there? You know, what's it going to look like? This is like visualization. We had someone come in, we did vision boards one day, which kind of is interesting, reflecting what we do. Visualize where you want to go and what you want to do. And then what is your message that you want to convey to people so they can help you get there? Surround yourself with positive people. The negative people, I use them as devil's advocate. If I want to know what's wrong with something, you find the devil's advocate, and they'll tell you how screwed up it is. You say, okay, got to work on this and this. And then you go to the positive people, say, hey, what do you think? They say, yeah. Now, this is from S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L, and I added some of my own comments in here. A lot of people expect career change to happen overnight. It's taken a while. If you had asked me when I was 17, would I be doing this today? I would say no. I was shy, introverted, hated doing class presentations. And now I can talk to groups of 500 or more. But it all changed over time. It wasn't one cataclysmic event. It kind of was thrown into multiples. So the first thing, as I mentioned earlier, is change your perspective. Is it a desert, or is there opportunity out here? When I first got into this career field, I was focused on what is my true meaning, what am I meant to do, and all this stuff, and my one true self. A lot of books out there on that. But I also realized there's a lot of possibilities. I have different selves. I'm a father. I'm a husband. I was a Cub Scout leader. I was a football coach, football player. Church. All these things. There's all these different selves that have contributed to where I am today. So, yeah, in the employment area, sure, there's something. I was like, I didn't look at mainly the positions, and I'm going to get to this. I looked at the thread that connected my activities and my work. There is a transition period. We talked about this. All new beginnings start with endings. We'd like the transition period to be like 2 hours, but for all of us, it's different lengths of time. For me, I would say it was a 10-year period of transition before I landed into something I truly enjoyed, and that I just became like a sponge. I like big steps. I like to get from point A to point B. Let's just say driving from here to my cousins up around Minneapolis. Well, I'd like that to be like 2 minutes. But there's a lot of things in between that I need to do to get there. And it's the same for you. Think of a railroad track. Each tie in the railroad track, as far as job search is concerned, is something you have to do. The first tie, when you're pulling out of the station, can be applying for unemployment. The second tie is start doing a resume. The third tie might be developing you see, there's all these little things, and once you start clicking those, you start going further and further, and it's by slowly and accomplishing small little tasks that you eventually get a big win. Get there. It's not a straight line path to the top anymore. It's crooked. You know, you're up, down. They call it career lattices now. You're left, right, forward, backwards, lateral moves. It's all of this. And a lot of times I found lateral moves help me to become more well-rounded, to know more things. I certainly volunteered for a lot of different activities, no matter where I was, just to learn. I figured the more I knew, the more valuable I was, the less likely I'd get laid off. But it's all helping me now. Here's the thing that really struck me with S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L. It's not just the job. 6, 7, 8, they kind of all come together. It's the work and it's the people. So you want to experiment with project work or temp work if you're thinking about making a career change, because those are actually interviews. You get to see the company, they get to see you. Find people who do what you want to do and talk to them. This is fact-finding, this is informational interviewing. And parallel paths. What I mean by this is, in a welfare to work workshop I did years ago, all the, happened to be all women, were all looking into warehouses and factories. And you could tell it was like, nails on a chalkboard. That was their enthusiasm level. So I said, let's just pretend you're in the Garden of Eden. What would you ideally like to do? One wanted to be a floral designer, landscape artist, making dresses. One, you could tell by her hair and nails, wanted to work in a salon. I don't know how you're going to do that on an assembly line. So what I said to the floral designer at the time, I said, why are you looking in a warehouse? Why don't you go to a flower shop near a cemetery? Jewel, Dominic's at the time, still had flowers. Frank's and Amling's were available. I said, work at a store, even if it's a cashier, because you're around something you enjoy, and then you become like a sponge and you start volunteering because it's fun, and then you start learning more, and then you start becoming more valuable, and now you have more experience. And then finding meanings in events. The threads in your life, these moments of flow, you meet people sometimes and years later say, boy, I'm glad I met this person, or this event happened, because it leads you to something else or leads you to people. I remember one time I had a low draft number and I was talking to a friend's mother, and I joined ROTC, and she says, you'd be great as a social worker, counselor. And I'm like, I'm going in the Army, please. But years later, when I saw him at my 25th high school reunion, I said, tell your mom, this is what I'm doing. But you look back in your past, don't live there. Look back for these threads, because it's providing you with direction. And then seize opportunities. When something comes up, jump on it. Don't wait, because that opportunity can be gone tomorrow. This was hard for me to read, and it's kind of interesting. Trying to remember the book I found it in. It was like a career guide. And there's a lot of times why we don't know what we want to do. And it hurts to read this, because a lot of times I use these as excuses. You may not want to be aware of knowing because of the responsibility for action that knowledge brings. If you profess not to know what your work is, then you can't be blamed for not achieving it. If you do know, then how can you justify not taking action and justify it to yourself or to others? And finally, how could you justify not making the sincere effort to develop yourself so you would better be able to work in this area? These are hard questions. Man, these knocked me flat. Knowledge brings responsibility, but taking action shows sincerity. It's one thing to know, it's another thing to take action. Excuse me. Actions, those 6 letters are the toughest letters in the alphabet when put together. So looking at the past for clues for the future, write out 7 to 10 success stories from your life. They could be school, teams you played on, recitals, classes you took, presentations you gave, challenges, business problems you've overcome, or personal challenges, customers, managers, anything like that. You write them out. This is the whole concept between What Color's Your Parachute. You want to identify skills, jobs, personality, transferable, and start looking for those common skills in each position, and then look for moments of flow, timelessness. How did you feel? What did you like or dislike about the event? This is very important because when you start looking at, I was in 2 sales jobs, very excited, I liked the challenge, but I heard certain things that made me very skeptical. You have to invest your money to make money, and you have the potential to earn 6 figures. Okay. I never asked, okay, how long is the tenure of someone here? Things like that. Who's making 100K in this office? But I start hearing certain things, it's just like that swarmy, I'm out of there. But here's what I like. Even in jobs I hated, I've learned something. I either learned not to go into those jobs, or even in sales, I learned planning and scheduling who I'm going to call and planning the next day's work. I've put some websites here for you that you can look at. Skills and career assessments. IllinoisWorkNet.com has free skills interest surveys. Career One Stop has career assessments. Career Key, jobs, the Balanced Careers, they have career aptitude tests. And the Job Hunters Bible has a list of these. Try to go for free first, but if you do pay, there's the strong interest inventory, Myers-Briggs, but try to find free first. So, kind of like at the first V, and do you have any questions so far about anything I've covered? Please type them in and I will answer them. I just want to take a break for a little bit. Okay. Sarah, I learned a lot of great skills doing activism, leading protests, founding Amnesty International at my college. Yeah, developed great leadership and collaboration. But I don't want to alienate my interviewer by declaring my political leanings. Is there a way to talk about these skills and how do I develop them? Well, one, you don't know who you're talking to. And I would just say that I worked establishing some different clubs at my college campus and talk about the skills. I was the founder, I organized, I ran papers. Look around, when you're in these, you got to look at the culture of the company and look at who you're talking to. Some people definitely would be turned off by that. Some people would say, hey, fantastic. So you got to get a feel, maybe find out in small talk, boy, what do you think's going on currently with the protests? And that might be an indicator for you. Okay. By the way, the other thing is look for companies, read their websites about them. They'll tell you the activism. There was on the news last night. They were saying which companies are supporting the protests right now. Okay. Alrighty. Okay. Even if it was a long time ago, that's fine. You see, even though it was a long time ago, you have these skills. It's like riding a bike. You pull these skills out of your pocket at the time that you need them, and they can be used effectively. You have the knowledge, you have the experience. You just have to refresh them. Okay. Let me see if there's anything else. Okay. With virtual interviews, how do you assess a company culture, management attitudes, other than looking at Glassdoor? Okay. So go to LinkedIn, look at the companies, because the companies now have their own sites on LinkedIn. You can read about them. You can see who you're connected with that's at that company. Get introduced to coworkers. Go to the company's webpage about them. Google the company name to find out about them. I'm going to tell you about a guy who came through here, not as a job seeker. He was, and I've used this story because he's talking everything that you did here. His name is Timothy, and he was a sign language interpreter for one of the job search workshop attendees. So I always joke Timothy is the only one who listened to me for 4 days because he had to. So he had gotten his master's and he had applied to all these jobs and never heard anything. So he says, wow, Jim says you have to network, you have to follow up, you have to tailor your resume, you have to use LinkedIn to find out about people. So at this one company he applied to, which was they were introducing Teledoc, I guess, and healthcare employee assistance program. He looked on the website, found that he had a friend who was connected to one of the managers. The friend had gone to grad school with him. So Timothy calls his friend, says, oh, I see you're connected to so-and-so, who's a manager over at that company. I applied there, but I haven't heard anything. So Timothy and the friend are talking, reminiscing, and all this other stuff. Meanwhile, the friend is actually sending an email to this manager. While Timothy and the friend are still talking, this is why it's so bizarre, the manager sends Timothy an email, says, listen, so-and-so, let's just call him Jim. Jim told me that you're interested in our company, that you applied based on Tim's recommendation. Why don't you just come in and talk with me, and we'll have an interview, and we're going to skip the phone interview just because you know Jim. Wow. So the next thing is Timothy goes on LinkedIn, finds the company, he researches the company, finds out the revenue growth, sees the manager, reads the manager's accomplishments, finds someone who worked for the manager. He put together about a 10-year snapshot of revenue growth under this manager. He also noticed that the manager that he was going to be talking with liked military history. So he goes in and he starts talking about what he knows about the company and he knows about the manager and stuff like that. And the guy says, gosh, how do you know so much? He says, it's kind of like war. You got to research the other side. Boom, instant connection. So then he sends Timothy to the vice president of whatever. The vice president, she's like, I really don't know what to do with you. The manager referred you to me. So how can you help us? So Timothy asks her, how many deaf people are there in Chicago? She says, I don't know. And he tells her. He says, how many deaf people are there in Illinois? She goes, I don't know. And he tells her. He had all these stats. He says, how many deaf people are there in the United States? She says, I don't know. He tells her. He says, think about it. You're going to teledoc, and the hearing impaired population are not going to be able to talk on teledoc. But if you have me as a chat bot where I can do sign language virtually, think of how we can expand the business. Guess who got the job? Okay. I just tell you that story because it was so wild. But he took the actions that we all talk about here. Does WorkNet DuPage take volunteers? Sorry, no, we don't. Is there a keyword search like cracking the job description code for company fit? Yeah, you can. You can read it. We're looking for rock stars. You can pick up trendy terms and stuff, but also go to their about page. Sometimes they have snapshots of the people in the work environment. If they're all young, what does that tell you? If they're more mature, what does that tell you? Okay, read their benefits. This one company, Red Frog, I looked them up. They do, I don't know, mud runs and craft beer fests and stuff like that. Well, they have unlimited vacation. So I went to their website. I'm looking up their benefits, and I noticed energy drinks. I was like, huh, energy drinks. My kids are down in those like water. I wonder if it's a younger crowd. Then I see a picture of all of them, and they're all 20, 30-ish, and they got to design their own job titles, which is why job titles at your company are irrelevant when you're on your resume as well. Does the professor thing know a website like Rate Your Professor does do the same thing for employer culture, a former, I don't know, Glassdoor is probably the same as Yelp. I'm always judicious looking at Glassdoor only because, like Yelp, bad reviews get more publicity than good. Talk to people who work there, okay? That's how you use LinkedIn. Type in the company's name, and it'll tell you people who work there, people who used to work there, and talk to them. They will tell you, especially ones who have left the company. Okay, I'm going to move on. Vanquish fear and desperation. I've had people come into my interviews. I just need a job. That was what one lady said. I just need health benefits. I want to work for the county. My friends say at my age, I should be working for the county. None of it had to do with what their mission was. Worry. Worry, my mom says to me, I worry about you. I worry about the kids. I said, why do you worry? Worry is like spinning your tires in the snow. You're just going in one place. It doesn't do you any good. It makes you crazy. I know panic. Boy, do I know panic. My wife was pregnant with our second kid. She had lost, her doctor fell out of her health care. I was facing my 8th layoff. I had just started here at WorkNet. They were getting rid of my position, maybe. And God, something else happened. We were at dinner and I just started having chest pains. It was just all this stuff built up in my head. You get into panic mode, and then it was just like, I learned the hard way to talk things out, to find people who support me. Rationalization, if you break the word down, is rational lies. Rational lies that you tell yourself, you know what? It's too hot today. I really don't want to go outside and go for a walk. There are no jobs out there because of the COVID lockdown. So I'm not going to look for any positions. I can't talk to people because we have to stay inside our houses. These are all rational lies that prevent you from taking action. And when you rationalize, you hesitate. And when you hesitate, you start missing opportunities. And the hardest thing, man, we had the county board talk about this with the lockdown and the effects of the lockdown, this isolation, is you had a higher increase. Look up the county board, last county board meeting, higher increase in drug and alcohol and familial abuse. It skyrocketed. You know, I joke about the COVID-19 as those are the 19 pounds I've gained since being at home. Not really quite that much, but that's what everyone's talking about. And what isolation does, it's like a cocoon. You protect yourself from being hurt. But that's the worst possible thing you can do in this economy at any time, is to isolate because you need people, and people will help you. And again, it leads to missed opportunities. Traits you need are courage. It takes you courage every day to get up. It takes you courage to ask for help. It takes you courage to get through this job search. Confidence. This is why I like working, writing out your stories of your experiences and identifying skills and your top 10 skills, because it helps give me focus, it energizes me in interviews, and it gives me confidence. And if you are not confident in you and your skill set and what you bring to an employer, how can you expect the employer to be confident in you? I've talked about perception the other time. Change your perception. Rather than everything is going to hell in a handbasket and the sky is falling in, what's the opposite? What are the opportunities here? Perseverance. I always joke in the workshops, how long is a marathon? 26.2 miles. How long is the job search? Until you hit the finish line. How long is that? We don't know. So you got to pace yourself. Take action every day, but schedule time for you. Resilience. I was telling a corporate head HR manager from Sony one time about my transition period. And he's, I'll say one thing, you're resilient, you keep bouncing back. We do. We keep bouncing back. What's the old saying? Get knocked down 7 times, come up 8. Actually, that's an old samurai saying. Just keep getting back up. And use resources that are available. I'm so happy you're here using the virtual job club. Please take advantage of everything that's out there for you. It keeps you occupied, it keeps you focused, you're learning new things. There's so many resources available to you. You got to risk. You got to explore. I was telling the team when I was young and in Germany, I heard of a rock concert, pulled in there, and being quiet and introverted and in a culture I didn't even speak the language, I just sat at one place at the rock concert, didn't get up. Now I work the room, I would work the stadium. But you know, it's small steps outside your comfort zone. And the other thing, when you take risk, you have to accept rejection. As I was researching the Robinson Crusoe, Daniel Defoe, there's a picture, an artist painted a picture of him getting rejected. The publisher's throwing out his book. Machiavelli, the prince, he comes in with the book, The Prince, to Lorenzo of Milan, or whatever, Florence, I think, Milan. And Lorenzo was like a 16-year-old kid. And Machiavelli comes in with the prince, but the guy behind him had brought these beautiful greyhound dogs, and the prince shoved Lorenzo pushed Machiavelli aside to play with the greyhounds, ignored the book that Machiavelli brought him. Lorenzo was overthrown in, I think, a bloody event about a year later, and yet Machiavelli's Prince lives on. So rejection is part of the game. We don't like it, but it's part of the game. And each time you get rejected, this is the whole premise of that failing forward. You've broken into new turf. You're exploring. You're exploring what works and what doesn't work. Improvise and illustrate. I had a trainer on my staff who studied at Second City. All this improv stuff, they work on it. They practice it. It doesn't come naturally. They have to prepare. They have to train and all this other stuff. Well, it's the same thing for you. To go into an improvise, I used to say, well, I'll just wing it. Well, winging it doesn't get you anywhere. You have to know yourself and know the company. So you go in, do the assessments, the skills, the personality, work environment. Know your work history. I had a young lady I was interviewing for a trainer. I said, so tell me about your training. And she was astonished. She says, did I do training? That's what she said to me. I said, yeah, it's right here on your resume. She didn't even know her work history. Your resume, you're going to have two of them. One is ATS friendly, applicant tracking system friendly, very blah, plain. Then you have the pretty one for the interview. When you're networking, you need a summary speech. You have to work on it. Who are you? What are you looking for? What can you do? And an example. Your accomplishment stories. Problem, action, results. This is the format for your accomplishment statements. This is examples you can use for your networking. And these are examples that you'll use throughout the interview. Interviewing is storytelling. Negotiation of salary, benefits, and considerations. Which brings us to a question, is there a way to determine what benefits the company offers? You have health issues, several of my treatment providers only accept Blue Cross Blue Shield. Go to the company website. Some of these companies tell you what they provide. You go to the county website, it will tell you. Is there a tactful way of finding this stuff out early? Yeah, I would start with the website first. And the other thing is, if there's a company that interests you, find people in the company and ask them about the benefits or get referred to HR. I'm really interested in your company. I'm just kind of curious. I didn't see on your website what some of your benefits are, your healthcare benefits, things like that. You got to be like Columbo sometimes. Oh, by the way. So, but like I said, with Red Frog, they told you what their healthcare plans were. And I'm seeing that a lot more with companies as they're putting it out there. Here's the healthcare. Here's what our benefits are. Especially when the economy, back in March before all this hit, they were hurting for people. And, they were coming up with benefit packages. And every survey I read from like S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L, there's all sorts of HR websites I go to. Salary and health benefits usually are at the top there of what people want. Okay, I hope that answers your question. Ask. Okay. An oasis in the midst of the wilderness. That's who we are, WorkNet DuPage. We can help you get certification training, your PMP, your CDLA, medical assistant, patient care tech, Microsoft Office, whatever. We have job search workshops, and we have a job club, and we have a resource room if and when we ever open again, with computers and job search books. Okay, show and tell your story. I think one of the job clubs I did in May was visual aids for the interview. To help tell your story. We learn visually. If you notice, every one of my slides relates directly, the picture on the slide relates directly to the content. We're visual. 80% of what the brain processes is visual. You can have portfolios, both online or that you carry in. You can have cover letters, your resume. It's how you tell your story. You have to tailor it to the company and the position. Videos, you can record videos. Just have good lighting. Certainly LinkedIn. Your summary on LinkedIn does not have to be the rigid one like on your resume. Personalize it. I like to do, social media. Certainly you can put things out there, good things on social media, or you can make an infographic. These are all ways to tell your story. What I do with people is when I'm sitting down with, say, a project manager, project coordinator, and they're telling me all this stuff, and I'm like, whoa, 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 whoa. I flip over the resume, hand them a pen, and say, show me, draw it out for me, because then it helps me see them do the job, and then I know how to write their accomplishment. You can do that in the interview. Help them see how you're going to be a benefit to them. Okay, one of the questions is, any suggestions for writing a custom cover letter, which are a must with every submission? It's easy to get bogged down when you must compose something original for each one. I would say have the basics out. You have your entry, your first paragraph, I'm really interested in this position or your company. And at the end, you can have a standard. Well, I'm looking forward to the opportunity to talk with you about how I will be a great asset to your company. Something along those lines, and you have your signature block. But the paragraphs in between, the one or two, you tailor those to the company. Read the job description. What's the role they want you to play? What are the skill sets? And then you try to tell a little story about, I noticed that the position requires this. At X, Y, and Z company, I did this. Alrighty. When negotiations include benefits, should the company be contributing 75% of health costs? I don't know. Each company is different. Some companies will pick up 100%. Where was that? One of the companies my son worked at, they were picking up 100% of the costs. In some companies, you have to get your own. They're all different. No, this is part of the research. Know what you require, the salary and the benefits. And when you're paying COBRA, if you know what you were contributing per month before the layoff and how much you're paying afterwards with COBRA, that's the difference that the employer was paying, plus 10%. There's a 10% processing fee on COBRA, or administration fee. Okay. Be creative. Just don't look in corporate. There's freelancing, the gig economy now. There's freelancing sites. I think it's Flex Jobs. I think you pay a fee, but if you put in freelance opportunities, Google that. That'd be fine. Nonprofit. Chicago is the second largest city with the amount of nonprofit headquarters. They need IT as much as they need fundraisers. Volunteer, it helps you get experience, get exposure, you get to see the company. Goes back to that question earlier. How do you know about the culture of a company or an organization? Is see if they accept volunteers. Preferably, temp assignments would be better. But I know one lady who years ago had volunteered at a green organization, green economy type. Years later, she wanted to work there again, so she started volunteering, and they hired her on. maybe you want to start a position. Do you know that some of the major companies, and I'm trying to remember, like UPS, a lot of these companies started in the middle of recessions or depressions. I was amazed, and I can't remember the book about it, but I think it was, I can't remember, I'll have to figure it out. Military, there's a huge civilian workforce, if you don't want to join, that supports the military. Government positions, look where you live. My dad worked for the town we lived in. He was referred there by one of the fathers, you know, that would be in the church group and that came out with us with Boy Scout trips and stuff. You know, you don't know. One lady working for me part-time from the area on aging, she was making minimum wage. She got hired by S.U.R.V.I.L part-time for 14 bucks an hour. So look where you live, the town or village. Look at townships, look at the county, look at the state. And the state was supposed to be hiring a lot of people to handle unemployment. And then look federal. We just had how to find federal jobs last week. You can review the video online at our website. Education. You know, I've had tech people now become working for school districts to run their networks. College DuPage. Everyone thinks education is teachers. No, there's admin assistants, there's counselors, there's financial advisors, there's security. Look at the options, the opportunities. Value networking, anytime, anywhere, with anybody. I can't say that enough. Because you have choices. When you apply online, this is your competition. To Google, Microsoft, these big corporations, Apple, average 2 million resumes per year. That means 4 to 5 resumes coming in every minute. So you're competing against the crowds. Your chances of getting hired by being known are better than applying online. There's a book by the guy who, Orville Pearson. He wrote a book, The Unwritten Rules for the Job Search. He also did Lee Heck Harrison's outplacement program. 5% of people find jobs, they're created for them. Maybe 20% find it online, but the majority, 70% or more, find the job by being known. And here's what I mean. This is just one of the surveys. There were so many drafted blog. Says 70% of employers felt the referred hires fit the company culture better than anything else. You see, if someone's referred to me, that person's reputation is online, not the person referred. So if I refer a job seeker to my sister, she's trusting me that I'm not going to send her a psychopath. Because if I do, the next holiday dinner, I'm having an object thrown at me if we ever talk again. But if I send her someone who I did, this lady was a bulldog for accounts receivable, finding money. And my sister liked her, hired her. And my sister said, why don't you tell me she was legally blind? They pretty much had to buy a big screen TV for her computer monitor. And I said, does it matter? You're looking for a bulldog to find some of this money that's outstanding. She says, well, that's true. She is a bulldog. See, it doesn't matter. But see, now she comes to me whenever she's looking for people. They found that referrals are 25% more profitable than their peers. I don't know why, but because we work harder. And 88% of employers said referrals bring in the best hires. When you are networking with people, even if you making connections online. Go to the company website and see if they have an employee referral program, and ask your connections. Does your company have an employee referral program? Should I send the resume to you? When I have job seekers say, hey, we're hiring at our company, have the resumes come through me, I know there's an employee referral program. This is from S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L. They did a study of employers. I know it's 2018. I couldn't find any data on 2019. I think because of all the craziness going on that they haven't had time to come up with the numbers. But I want you to look here. Employee referrals, a little over, maybe about 12% of total applicants. With Indeed, which is probably the best job search engine, total numbers were 50% of candidates. You had a lower number of candidates referred, but they had the greater chance of being interviewed. And look at the difference in the hired between referral and just coming in cold off the street. Look at the green. So I put where I found this: Career Crossroads, Silk Road, and blog.drafted, the referral programs. 59% of referrals are sourced through their current employees. 41% of referrals come from outside the company, either family, friends, former managers, or coworkers. Applicant to hire conversion rate, only 7% apply, but that accounts for 40% of the hires. 67% of all employers and recruiters said recruiting process was shorter for referrals. So rather than waiting all day online and becoming a skeleton at the computer, if you network, you can get an interview and get hired quicker than if you just applied online. 51% of employers and recruiters said it was less expensive to recruit via referrals. They don't have to pay these fees, the LinkedIn, the Career Builder, the Indeed. And by the way, when you listen to the radio and they're talking, Indeed comes on, or ZipRecruiter, if you really listen, they're not advertising to you, the job seeker. They're advertising to the employer on how they can make the process more effective by eliminating people. We can have questions to ask so you can narrow the pool. Online research is an elimination game when you're applying online. Networking is an inclusion game. Because you're referred from someone they trust, they will call you in for the interview. And the referrals are quicker to start. Yeah, I can start as soon as this. Referrals hires have greater job satisfaction and can stay longer at the company if they're looking at retention. And this I found at Crossroads. 9 referral leads to 1 hire versus 72 applications that will lead to 1 hire. And that 72 applications is optimal. I had a lady in a job club the week before Christmas, so about 2-3 years ago. She had sent out over 300 applications online, no response. A former coworker, she had talked with a former coworker. The coworker says, hey, give me your resume. We're looking for people. Within that week that she gave the resume to the coworker, she was interviewed and hired. By Friday, she was at the job club, says, I talked to 1 person, a former coworker, I got hired, versus over 300 online applications. This is why networking is so important. What's the one thing we don't want to do when we're laid off? Talk to people, ask for help. But what do you have to do? You're not alone out there. You have all these people that are willing to support you. Make a list of family, friends, neighbors. I rolled out my parents. I said, my parents don't know. And I didn't even know that the people sitting at the job club were all mid or senior level vice presidents of corporations, the bridge club and stuff, you know? They all had jobs. But see, I assumed that they didn't know anyone and that they couldn't help me. And do you know why I assumed that? Because I didn't know what I wanted. And I couldn't communicate that to my family. I couldn't communicate that to my friends. Once you figure out what you want to do, then it's easier to ask for help. Family, friends, neighbors, coworkers, school alumni services, your interests, hobby groups. I've had people tell me they stood up in church, asked for help. The guy in the pew behind this one person said, give me your resume. Within a week, he was hired. If I'm in church and someone says I need prayers, I lost my job, I give them my card. When you are quiet, no one can help you. Go to the local chamber of commerce. Who's in your town? I don't know every employer in my town, but start in your town and work your way out. A, always be ready. Be ready for networking opportunity. Carry business cards with you wherever you go. Put some in the car. I mean, one guy said he kept resumes in the car. He was at a barbecue and he was talking to some guy and he says, give me your resume by Monday. So I'll do better. I got it in my car. They walked to the car. He had his resumes. Do informational interviews. You might talk to someone. You're standing in line or you meet at a baseball game, you watch a Little League game, and you start talking, well, tell me about your company and how'd you get in that? You have phone interviews can come at any time of day or night. And I mean, literally at night. When I was recruiting, the president of our company, when he left, he would go recruit at night up until 11 at night with his wife's recruiting firm. We now have video interviews that you record. You now have virtual interviews using Skype or Zoom. Always be ready for job offers. I know I've been shocked a few times when jobs were offered to me. I was like, what? You know, there's fear of failure. There's also fear of success. I said, oh my gosh, what happens if this other interview comes in, or what if I don't succeed? What if I get laid off? These are the gremlins in the house. Get rid of them. Be grateful that the company likes you. At the same time, I've also seen job offers rescinded. I know there's a lot of people that have been talking with the counselors. They interview, they have job offers, and then all of a sudden this pandemic strikes and they're on hold. And during the recession of 2009, I've known people, this one sales lady had 2 or 3 rescinded just as the economy got worse. It happens. And then be prepared for layoffs. I was telling the staff before we started the seminar, when my whole staff was let go when we were short funding years ago. And I called a recruiter friend of mine who will be presenting in the future, and Tim Murphy. And I said, oh, wow, this has happened. And he looked at me while he talked to me on the phone. He says, Jim, if you had to, can you pick up and leave today? I was like, wow, I never thought about that. I don't know if I could. So then I bought a flash drive and started cleaning up my office. You got to be ready. Which brings me to, since I was in the Army, Vegetius wrote military manuals for the Roman army. And one of his things, my battalion commander used to like this. In the midst of peace, war is looked upon as an object too distant to merit consideration. He, therefore, who wishes for peace should prepare for war. So I'm going to change this to the job search. In the midst of working, when you have a job, being laid off is the farthest thing from your mind. You become complacent. Therefore, if you wish for peace, where everything's calm. You need to be prepared for the storm, okay? The layoffs that are coming, okay? Keep a resume active, keep your LinkedIn, keep your networking going. The problem is most job seekers neglect the network until they need it. Keep developing it. Lifelong learning. We've had several people get jobs, come back over the years that I've been here. I know many of them. They've had training, upgrade training. So Workforce Innovation Act, WIOA. Come to WorkNet DuPage or use our website. Come to that layoff to launch on Tuesday. Sign up for it at 9:30. Community colleges, adult education. I think when you get to a certain age, you can audit for free. And I'm talking older workers here, or Renaissance workers, as I like to call us. There's internships, returnships. We just had a lady get hired. She had done 1 or 2 returnships. Corporations out there are doing returning to work moms. That's what returnships are, getting back in the workplace. On the job training. You also have Coursera now is partnering, or Illinois is partnering with Coursera. There's a webinar today. All I know is it's out there. I don't know. It'll probably go till, I think, December, but maybe some, I don't know the details. When I know more, we'll be talking about it. So your attitude on the island increases your chance for rescue. I've had someone in the resource room, this was Mr. Negative Attitude. Even when the economy was great, we were in the unemployment center, 2006. You could actually walk in on a Monday at 8 o'clock and walk right up to the front desk and get a claim. That's how low unemployment was. He was telling everyone that there were no jobs out there. You know why there were no jobs? Because he was a jerk. And I'm trying to use nice language. You can substitute whatever words you want. And he was preventing, he was this negative Ned, poisoning the minds of other job seekers. So it's important that when your time on the island here is you make effective use of it. Plan your days. Talk to people. Get a resume. One for the online application and one for people. Know yourself. Know the companies. So I leave you with what my football coach in college, John Gallardi, winningest coach in college football, used to tell us. Don't worry about a bowl game in November when we're still in double sessions before the season started in August. He says you got to win next Saturday, and then you have to win the following Saturday. But let's take it one Saturday at a time. But what I remember from him is he always told us this: work intelligently now. Make maximum use of the time available that's in front of you. Now, I will get to your questions momentarily. Those of you who are working with counselors, some of you may have Jennifer or Javon or maybe other counselors. If you email this code, S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L to them, that will tell them that you attended today's session. Part of the WIOA program to get training is that you maintain contact with your counselors. So that's why we're putting on these workshops. Each workshop that we do, each job club will have a different code. And you are fulfilling your end of the bargain is that you are maintaining contact with your counselors. Okay, they're here to help you, but they need to know that you are attending the workshops. So for any of you prior service military, it's Sierra Uniform Romeo Victor 302. For everyone else, it's S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L 302. Let's see what we got coming up here. Again, our success is your success. We are grant funded. Congress reviews every year how many people have used the program and how many people have gotten jobs. Since I've been here 25 years, we have to maintain 23 metric, at least 23, that we have to meet all of them. We have to pass all of them. If we don't, if we miss one, we're on probation for a year. If we miss second year, we lose the grant. The minimum for us is 70% of people get jobs. We've made that my whole 25 years here. 80%, if we have 80% of the people get jobs, that means we get incentive money to help more people. And every year I've been here, we've always made 80%. But we need the information from you so that we can help others in the future. So when you get hired, you can see I like telling stories of real people that have come through the program to help you see how these tools were used to help people find jobs. I want you to be on Fergal's All-Star Story list, all righty? Please email me when you get a job. I'd like to know how you found it, what the process was. The other thing that we have to report back to Congress on is the title of the job, the salary, and the benefits. Because Congress wants to know several things. Is one, are people getting jobs at a higher salary? Do they have benefits? And how long are they on the job? So that's why we're doing follow-ups now at 6 months and a year, just to see, because Congress wants to know, but they're trying to judge the economy. If we're here in the gig economy, then they're like, well, there's no long-term. But if people are staying long-term and getting better salaries, that's how the Occupational Outlook Handbook is developed. That's how the Bureau of Labor Statistics develops ONET, an Occupational Outlook Handbook. Any salary survey is based generally on information given by us to Department of Labor. All righty, and it's reported back to Congress. This is a federal program. So please, let us know. And you want me to repeat the code as well. S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L, S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L 302, S.U.R.V.I.V.A.L 302. Okay, now, coming up, I'm going to address all your questions in a little bit. Next week, we're going to have how to effectively network in the time of COVID-19. Kathleen Gallagher and Angela Smith. They're in advertising and marketing backgrounds, so they love to talk to people. Tim Murphy, he's a recruiter. I've known him we actually met through networking through one of the counselors. He lived a few blocks from me at one time. Never knew it. June 19th is preparing for the economic storm's aftermath. Obviously, read Cranes today. The economy is getting better quicker than people thought. We'll see how this all turns out. But eventually the storm recedes. I'll just say this. After every storm, after every hurricane, there's a new beach. I'm doing a workshop at the end of the month, Job Club, Knowledge Nomads and the Nervously Employed. I had found this book. I said, wow, this is fantastic. And did a whole, I like stories for Halloween job clubs. So I used this as a Halloween job club. And I was at a career conference about 3 years ago, and I met the author, and I said, hey, I used your book. I thought it was fantastic. Nervously employed means we're stuck in one job, complacent. Knowledge nomads are the gig, the contract works, the project works. And, we're depending on who you read, we're somewhere in between those two. So we'll talk about those issues. One final thing before I answer your questions is I will be presenting at Path Group Compass Church this Tuesday at 9 a.m. June the 9th. Oh my gosh. been talking too long. June 9th at 7 p.m. The topic will be Career Ronin, Writing the Job Search Wave of Change. And you can contact Fred Johnson, who's running it, for the Zoom info. Career Ronin is based on the book, Career Ronin, Writing the Waves of Change, that I found while going through my own job search. Samurai were laid off in between wars. They roamed the countryside in waves, thousands, similar to what happens with all the corporate layoffs. Some of them would become robbers. Some of them would pick up extra training. Some of them would train others. And then when the war started, they would go again. The thing was, they weren't getting paid during the layoffs. So it was very unsettling for the samurai to be laid off. And so one of the things was you have to do Ronin 7 times, be laid off 7 times before you become a true samurai. So I'm a job search samurai right now because it's been more than 7 times. Got to get up 8. So let's see, what questions do you have for me? If I get certification through you, then do I need to get the job through you? No. Here's the thing. We are a job training. We teach you how to fish. We do have a business team that is looking at employers, but I'd say 95% of people find jobs not through us. We are not a placement agency. We are not a temp agency. We are not a personnel agency. So we're teaching you to fish. So if you find a job somewhere, essentially we have helped you by using, hopefully you've used some of our techniques or the certification. So, and I've had people, when the layoffs were like 3-4 years, they say, what have you been doing? They've told people, we've gone to job clubs, we've taken job search workshops, we've gotten certification training, and that has helped them get jobs because it shows initiative. Is it worth it to print business cards? What information should we have on them without the current position or company? I think we did a workshop on this. Your business card should have your name, what you do, what type of position. You can have a picture, professional, like realtors, they all have their picture on them when they were 20. What you're known for, maybe what your brand name is. Like on mine, I might have trainer, facilitator, and I might put career doctor, or conduit of information might be my brand, something like that. My phone number, email account, use Gmail for job search, AOL, if you're a tech IT person, information technology, and you have an AOL account, does not bode well for you. Tells them you're old, so get a Gmail, shows you're up with things. Have your LinkedIn on there. And on the backside, you can put 1 to 4 bullet points about what you're known for, what you do. Okay, solve problems, whatever. Okay, so that's the business cards. Yeah, I remember my first business card had my name, address, and phone number. Didn't tell people anything that I was looking for. So this is where it helps you to target. Are there new interview questions during and post-COVID pandemic world? Not really sure what that means. The interview formats are usually behavioral, which are tell me about a time, describe for me a situation. This is where stories come in. So this is why you have to write them out. As part of your interview prep, pick and choose which stories of experiences or skills, stories about skills, relate directly to the position. What was the problem? What actions did you take, and what were the results? What certification or skills improve transitioning during remote? Well, if you're on Zoom, you're halfway there, if you can figure that out. I don't know if there's any Zoom certifications. I think some of the Coursera workshops that they're offering might have something to do with remote training, but I'm not sure about that. But you do have to learn Skype, and Skype and Zoom are similar. I'm having trouble signing up for job counseling on your website. It's hanging up. I believe this happened to me before, which is why I've not signed up yet. I tell you what, send me your email or email me at jfergal@worknetdupage.org. Gloria and Amy,
Yes.
have you had any? Can you check into this on our website?
Sure, Gloria, if you can reach out to Jim, and I'm not sure what you mean by hanging, so I'd be happy to speak with you after the webinar and we can figure that out. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Julie. William, these workshops on Friday are valuable. However, it's limited seats. We can add 3 friends, but they can't, I can add 3 friends, but they can't get in. Here's the issue. With free Zoom, you get 45 people. We bought a subscription account, which limits us to 100 people. So what we do is we have reservations up to 130 people. People sign up for these workshops by Tuesday or Wednesday. It is full. I'm sorry.
William, I would just like to say there are tons of spots open for next Friday and actually all of the remainder of all of our job clubs. So if you want to pass that on to your friends this weekend, it's very likely that they will get in. It typically doesn't sell out until Monday or Tuesday midweek. So I would definitely encourage you to pass on, and we do really appreciate that, especially today or over the weekend, because there are plenty of seats currently available.
Thanks, Amy.
No problem.
So, yeah, don't wait till the last minute. Do it now, because they do fill up. I don't, Amy and I talked about this. I do not want to put 150 or 200 people, because then we have to turn people away. I don't know how many showed up today, but I really just don't want to make you more frustrated than possible. And that's why we limit it at 130, because we know there's going to be a drop off.
And we also post all of the job clubs after the recordings process, usually by the end of day Friday at the latest, typically. And that's at worknetdupage.org/webinars.
Thank you, Amy.
No problem.
Charles asks, workshop to set up and fine tune work from home environment, lighting, etc. I will tell you now, you need an area, and I bought myself a nice office chair. However, I have recorded, and it is on our website, video and virtual interviews, how to prepare for them. It is a free video, and I will be doing it again in July. I can't remember the exact date. I think it's the 17th. But you can view it on our website. Star stories like screener calls. Charles, behavioral interview. Yes, you can use star. There's all variables, but essentially there was a problem. You took actions, and what was the results? And if you can quantify dollars, numbers, percentages, sure, that gets people's attention, because when you're applying online, keywords are important, nouns and keywords for the machine, the software, but humans like to see results. And and I talk about this in other workshops, and we'll be reviewing this again. how to dollarize your accomplishments. All righty. Okay. Let's see here. Boom, boom, boom. Yes, behavioral interviewing, yes. Okay. Thanks. Worknet2page.org. Okay. Here is my contact info, jfergal@worknet2page.org. And again, our website is worknet2page.org. If you're new, please fill out the application. Sign up for Tuesdays from layoff to launch. You hear all the job clubs coming up. We also have, we're working on July's job clubs as well, and August, believe it or not. So we're probably going to be doing virtual for a while, just to let you all know. Someone had a similar problem hanging inactive submit button on the getting started page. I now suspect that my Chrome browser was the issue. I tried Microsoft Edge browser today and it worked. Yeah, sometimes it depends on the pop-ups, whether you activate them or not. I don't know all that. Just try different things and hopefully it'll work for you. Okay, anything else? All righty. Well, I appreciate you hanging in here. Wow, I went a little longer than I wanted, but you had some great questions and I felt the need to answer them. I hope I've answered your questions. Please sign up, use our services. Maybe I'll see you virtually Tuesday at Path Group. And again, it's Tuesday night, 7 o'clock, Career Ronin. Contact Fred Johnson. All righty. All righty. Thank you all. I appreciate it. It's my pleasure to do these presentations for you. I enjoy doing them, and I love sharing the info with you. I don't know, what's this raised hand mean here? Miraj Patel, if you have a question, put it on the question and answer. Okay. Okay, everybody, I'm going to sign off. You have a good weekend. Yes, it is Friday. Sometimes I lose track working from home all the time. So I wish you the best. You have my email. You have Fred's email. So take care. Adios.